Hello everyone, welcome to the Learn with Sandra show channel. My name is Alexandra and I remain your educational guide. So if this is your first time joining us, thank you for joining us. You're so welcome. So in today's video, we're going to be tackling the JAMB CBT past question for the subject government year 2023, and we're going to be solving question 1 to 27. So please don't go anywhere, stay with me, and I'll be right back. Question 1. So which of the following is a fundamental principle of the democratic governance? The answer to this question is option C, citizen participation. But first things first, what is fundamental principle? We're talking about the core, the key, okay, the key principle. We're talking about the central importance. Okay, what's the most important thing when you think of democratic governance? That is what it means. So when we think of a democratic governance, it implies that people have power. People can exercise their power either directly or through a representative, which is indirectly, right? Okay, and option C, citizen participation, implies that people are involved in governance. So that is the answer to this question, because option A, centralized decision making, implies that power is vested in a central authority. It means that power is located in a single central decision-making body. Okay, so when we think of censorship of the media, it implies suppression of the media, and this honestly has nothing to do with the fundamental principle of a democratic governance. So authoritarianism involves strict obedience to authority. Okay, so it has nothing to do with a democratic governance also. So the answer to this question is option C, citizen participation. Question 2. So which of the following is not a source of public opinion? So the answer to this question is option B, academic journals. So public opinions are formed when the majority of the people in a country, have similar opinion concerning an issue. Now think of it this way. Think about any social media trending issue and ask yourself this question. What is the majority of people saying concerning this issue? Now that's how you begin to understand the concept of public opinion. Now speaking of the source of public opinion, it starts with the family. When your parents and siblings start to talk about it, when your peer group, your friends start to discuss about it, then you go on social media and you see a lot of people talking about it. The TV station, the radio station, you have their moderators addressing the issue. Political party is also another source of public opinion. Opinion poll is a method of measuring people's choices. Okay, it's another source of public opinion. But when we speak of academic journal is typically used to disseminate information, disseminate research findings, scholarly articles are being discussed. So it's not a direct source of public opinion. However, it can influence my opinion. So when I speak up an academic journal and I read, it informs my decision. It modifies my already existing knowledge about something, because there are data to prove these, findings, right? So it influences my decision, but it's not considered as a direct source of public opinion. So the answer to this question is option B, academic journals. Question 3. So in a parliamentary system of government, the head of government is dash. The answer to this question is option B, the leader of the majority party in the legislature. Now let me give a background first. So a parliamentary system of government is also called a cabinet system of government, and this implies that two people are in power. One as the head of state, which performs a ceremonial function. The second as the head of government, which performs executive function. And do not forget that Nigeria once operated a parliamentary system of government with Nnamdi Azikiwe as the head of state and Tafawa Balewa as the head of government. Now moving on to the question. In appointing the head of government, there are 4 stages involved. First is the general election. Second is the recognition of the majority party. Third is the selection of the leader. And fourth is the appointment stage. Okay, so let's start with the first stage, general election. Now, you and I will come out to vote to elect members of the legislature, or what is called members of the parliament. So people come out to vote. Now, you are familiar with some political parties. Let's use PDP, APC, and Labour Party, and let's use some hypothetical figures. Okay, so let's say, for example, people elected 20 people, or voted for 20 people in PDP, 5 people in APC, 2 people in Labour Party. Who automatically becomes the majority party? PDP, because PDP have won the majority seats. Okay, so PDP internally will now choose their leader. Okay, they will choose their leader, and that leader becomes the head of government automatically. Okay, now the last stage is now the appointment, where the head of state comes out to do the formality process. Okay, so choosing is quite different from appointing. The selection has been done in the first, second, and third stage. The last stage is just formality process. So it is the head of state that appoints, not choose. Okay. So now that you understand this, you agree with me that option B is the final answer to this question. So the leader of the majority party in the legislature. So option B is the final answer to this question. Question 4. So the policy of indigenization was introduced under the regime of dash. The answer to this question is A. General Yakubu Gowon, who served as the head of state between 1966 to 1975. Now, the policy of indigenization was introduced in 1972. So you can see it was during the regime of Yakubu Gowon. Now, why wasn't it enacted in the first place? Now, during that period, okay, the Nigerian economy was dominated by foreign companies. Okay, so Yakubu Gowon wanted to encourage some level of local ownership in businesses operating in Nigeria. So the policy was enacted. So the answer to this question is no doubt option A, General Yakubu Gowon. Question 5. Who is the current chairperson of ECOWAS, Economic Community of West African States? The answer to this question is option A, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who was elected on the 9th of July 2023. So option A is the final answer to this question. Question 6. So the constitutional amendment process in Nigeria requires the approval of dash. The answer to this question is option B, the National Assembly. Okay, so when you think of constitutional amendment, we think of the amendment of a law. Okay, and this starts with a proposal. So the National Assembly or the president proposed the amendment of this constitution. Okay, and after it is proposed, the National Assembly must approve. Each of the chamber, the House of Senate and the House of Representatives, must approve with at least a two-third majority vote. And what do I mean by this? The House of Senate is made up of 109 members, so you have 109 times 2 over 3, which is two-third, right? And the answer is approximately 73, to be practical, 73, okay? So the assent of the president is the last stage, and that is just a formality process, okay? So you need to be able to distinguish between the formality process and the real approval or the real selection. So the answer to this question is option B, the National Assembly. Question 7. So during the Cold War, Nigeria's foreign policy was characterized by dash. The answer to this question is neutrality and non-alignment. So the Cold War spanned from 1940 to the early 1990s, and Nigeria constantly reaffirmed its non-alignment, in international forums, diplomatic engagement, conferences, and all of that. They constantly said that they would not take side. They maintain friendly relations with both sides while pursuing its own interest. Okay, so that's pretty smart, right? So the answer to this question is option B, neutrality and non-alignment. Question 8. So which of the following documents granted Nigeria its independence? The answer to this question is option C, the Nigerian Independence Act of 1916, which was enacted by the Parliament of the United Kingdom. It was a formal document that granted Nigeria independence from British colonial rule. So consider it as a legal framework. Okay, so option C is the final answer to this question. Question 9. Which of the following is a right associated with citizenship? The answer to this question is option B, right to vote. Now, why is this so? Now, option A, C, and D are rights enjoyed by individuals in a society. However, right to vote is uniquely associated with citizenship. Now, for example, say you decide to further your education, and go do your master's in the United States of America, and you go there during election period. It does not give you the right to vote, because you are going there to enjoy the educational system. Until you're declared a citizen, that's when you can vote. So it is uniquely associated with citizenship, the right to vote. So option B, the right to vote, is the answer to this question. In the parliamentary system of government, the executive branch is dash. The answer to this question is combined with the legislative branch. So one of the features of the parliamentary system of government, which is also considered as a disadvantage of the system, is the fusion of power. And this is a combination of the legislative and the executive branch. Now, the primary function of the prime minister, which is also called the head of state, is to perform executive function, while the primary function of the head of state is the ceremonial function. Now, who then performs the legislative function? The members of the legislature, which is also called members of parliament, perform the legislative function. But then remember my explanation in question 2, where I talked about the appointment of the head of government. And I said his appointment is tied to electing representative in the legislature. And I gave an hypothetical figure of 20 people, elected from the PDP, okay, forming the ruling party or the majority party because they won 20 seats in the legislature, right? Now, what the head of government does is that it will now select cabinet ministers from this 20 legislature. It will select cabinet minister. It can select like 5, 6, or 7, depending on the structure or the need of his government. It will select them to become cabinet ministers, and they will perform executive functions. So they are special group. So there's a popular saying that all cabinet ministers in a parliamentary system of government are legislatures, but not all legislatures are cabinet ministers. So you understand the fusion of power there. Do you understand now? So the answer to this question is combined with the legislative branch. Question 11. So what is the main source of funding for public corporations in Nigeria? The answer to this question is option A, government budget allocation. So when we think of public corporations are government establishments, and they are established to, provide essential services for the people. Services like electricity, water. So when we think of public corporation, we think of PHCN, we think of NRC, Nigerian Railway Corporation, we think of, NNPC, and so on and so forth. Okay, so the main source of funding for public corporation is the annual budget allocation to meet their running costs, but they can still perform without it. But the main source, according to the question, so the best answer to this question is option A, government budget allocation. Question 12. Which of the following is a limitation of pressure groups? So the answer to this question is option C. They may prioritize their own interest over the public interest. Now, the aim of pressure group is to influence government policies, to influence their opinion. Now, there's a risk, and the risk is that they may prioritize their interest, over the public interest. And this might lead to enacting policies that, favor just a group of people at the expense of the population. So the answer to this question is no doubt option C. They may prioritize their own interest over the public interest. Question 13. So which of the following is a function of the Public Complaints Commission? So the answer to this question is option C, conducting investigations and inquiries. Okay, so Public Complaints Commission is a body tasked with the responsibility of investigating complaints, from the public against the, government agency or government officials. So, for example, if I experience delay or inefficiency or negligence while receiving, government services such as healthcare, I can table my complaint to the commission. And so what they do is they investigate, they inquire into the complaint, and they try to settle the disputes between myself and the government official or the government agency. So you see that the answer to this question is option C, conducting investigations and inquiries. Question 14. What is the term for a system of government in which power is held by a small group of people? Okay, so let's start with the first option. Option A, oligarchy, power is in the hands of a few. Option B, monarchy, so political power is in the hands of a king, a queen, an emperor, an empress, Option C, theocracy, so power is in the hands of, a religious leader like a priest. Option D, democracy, of course, political power is in the hands of the people. So the answer to this question is no doubt option A, oligarchy, so political power is in the hands of a few. Okay, option A is the final answer to this question. Question 15. So which African country successfully resisted European imperialism and maintained its independence? The answer to this question is option B, Ethiopia. So Ethiopia is the only country among this option that did not experience British colonial rule. And also Liberia. Liberia is another country, African country, that did not experience colonial rule. Okay, so Ghana, Kenya, Algeria, they all experienced the British colonial rule. So Ghana gained independence in 1957, Kenya in 1963, Algeria in 1962, and of course Nigeria in 1960, right? So the answer to this question is option B, Ethiopia. Question 16. So which of the following is a feature of the Nigerian federalism? So one of the feature of the Nigerian federalism is the constitutional division of power among the central government, the state government, and the local government. Now what this implies is that the central government, the state, and the local government have power. Not just the central government, but other components have power. Okay, so the answer to this question is autonomy of the local government. Now Nigerian federalism started as a result of a need to bring the government closer to the people. So autonomy of the local government is the best answer, because autonomy of the local government implies, the self-governance of the local government. Okay, so when you take a look at option A, single party system, this is not a feature of the Nigerian federalism. So the Nigerian federalism is characterized by a multi-party system. So option B, centralized fiscal system. This means that the central government have power over fiscal matters like taxation, allocation of funds, spendings. So this is not the answer to this question, because the local government and the state government also have such power or control. So option D, strong central government. Yes, the central government is strong, but there's also a constitutional division of this power among other component units. So the answer to this question is option C, autonomy of local government. Question 17. If the president refuses to sign a bill within a specific period, it can still become a law through dash. The answer to this question is option A, legislative override. Now, legislative override implies that the law is without the president's signature. Now, the word override generally means to disregard something. So in this context, it means to disregard the president's signature. So the answer is option A, legislative override. Question 18. So which document serves as the Constitution of the United Nations? The answer to this question is option D, Charter of the United Nations. And this is a document that sets the principles, the structure, as well as the objective of the United Nations. So the answer is no doubt option D, Charter of the United Nations. Pressure groups primarily aim to dash. The answer to this question is option C, influence public opinion through media campaigns. So the main aim of the pressure group is to influence government policy, to influence the public opinion towards a particular cause, and they achieve this objective through the mass media, through TV, radio station, social media, and every other media platform or channel. So to say promote social equality and justice is not entirely pressure group aim, because pressure group represents different interests. It could be business related, economic interest, labor interest, anything. So to say social justice, some may focus on social justice, but that's not their main aim. Okay, so political power and control, that is the aim of political party. Okay, so option D, disrupts the functioning of the government. That's not true. Okay, so that's not the answer. Option C is the best answer to this question. Question 20. In which system of government is the executive and legislature fused? The answer to this question is cabinet. The cabinet system of government is also called the parliamentary system of government, and in this system of government, the legislature and the executive are fused. Now, what this implies is that the head of government, which is also the prime minister, draws his cabinet from the members of the legislature. And do not forget that the prime minister's sole function is the executive function. So he draws his cabinet from the members of the legislature. Okay, so you can see the fusion of power between the executive and the legislature. So the answer to this question is option A, cabinet. Question 21. Which of the following African leaders played a significant role in the formation of NEPAD? The answer to this question is option B, Nelson Mandela. So NEPAD is the New Partnership for African Development, and it was established in the year 2001. Okay, and Nelson Mandela of South Africa played a significant role, and it was established to address the development challenges such as healthcare, education, governance, agric, in African states. So the answer to this question is option B, Nelson Mandela. Question 22. So Nigeria is a founding member of which regional organization? The answer to this question is option A, ECOWAS. Okay, so which was founded in 1975. Nigeria is one of the founding member of this organization. Other countries include Ghana. Ghana is also a founding member. Togo, Senegal, Burkina Faso, Guinea. They are all founding members of the organization. Okay, So don't be quick to choose OPEC. OPEC is Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, which was founded by five oil exporting countries: Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, Venezuela, Saudi Arabia, and it was established in the year 1960. Okay, so option A is the final answer to this question. Question 23. The current constitution of Nigeria is based on the model of which country? The answer to this question is option B, United States of America. So the question says the current constitution. Now, the current constitution of Nigeria is the 1999 constitution, which is the fourth Republican constitution, which features the American presidential system. In fact, the constitution that ushered us into the American presidential system is the second Republican Constitution of 1979. So the first republic, the 1963 Constitution, the 1960 Constitution were all under the parliamentary system of government, which is the United Kingdom. So the answer to this question is option B, United States. Question 24. The arm of government responsible for budget approval and oversight is the dash. The answer to this question is legislative. Now, while the president proposes the annual budget, it is sent to the National Assembly for approval. Don't forget the National Assembly is also under the legislative branch. Okay, so after approval, the legislative has the responsibility to oversee its execution, and that's where oversight comes in. Okay, so they monitor how the government spend the money. So the answer to this question is option D, legislative. Question 25. A key principle of the socialist system of government is dash. The answer to this question is option D, equality of opportunity and outcome. Now, socialist system of government implies socialism, and socialism is a political and a social system of government in which the state owns the means of production as well as the exchange and the distribution of goods and services. Now, in a socialist system of government, there's equal distribution of resources. There's nothing like class division or class distinction where you have the upper class, the middle class, or the low class. No. So the answer to this question is option D, equality of opportunity and outcome. Question 26. In a communist system, who owns and controls the means of production? The answer to this question is the government. So in a communist system, we mean communism. Communism is a political or social system in which the means of production is owned by the community or the state rather than a private individual or corporation. So the answer to this question is option B, the government. Question 27. The National Assembly is composed of how many chambers? The answer to this question is 2. Okay, so the National Assembly is under the legislative branch and it is composed of 2 chambers, which are the Senate and the House of Representatives. So option A is the final answer to this question. So we've come to the end of this lesson and I am trusting that it was impactful. Thank you for staying tuned. Do not forget to hit the like button, click on the subscribe button and tap on the bell notification to get informed as soon as I release the next video. Thank you once again. Bye.